this training. For those of you that were expecting this trainer earlier in the day, my apologies. Had a very big meeting, very, very big meeting go long. Excited to share details of that in the coming days and weeks. Before I get too far into this, I want to remind everybody that here within 1 week, I should say 1 week from tomorrow, depending upon when you're listening to this, February the 22nd, which is a Wednesday, the year 2023, at 10 a.m. Pacific time, I'm doing what's called the Ultimate Referral Workshop. I'm going to be doing a deep dive into how to get more referrals from your personal sphere, from social media, and lastly, from your professional network, like financial advisors. So excited to share that with you. In the meantime, between now and then, I have something very special for you to share. I have something very special to share with you today about how to get consistent results. I have friends that teach and train on this, and I've studied this topic for a long, long time. There have been times in my life where I've been very consistent. And there's times in my life when I've been very inconsistent. And I've been a student, not only of myself, but of the many, many people that I coach from coast to coast, really trying to identify what is it that makes people consistent? What is it that makes them inconsistent? And I'm going to distill down for you today 3 key principles that will help you to be more consistent. So let me just begin by kind of sharing the elephant in the room. Is that to get consistent results, you need to put in consistent activities. You need to do activities consistently, the right activities consistently. Now, this is going to go much deeper than that, but I do believe that if I failed to mention that, I would maybe lead you astray or give you the false impression that that is the key. Yet if that were the only key, just, hey, go be consistent, because that's what we hear all the time, right? Which is just, hey, go be consistent. If go do the activities consistently. If it were that easy, everybody would be doing it. But the reality is everybody's not doing it. And so there's got to be something deeper that causes people to want to do the activities consistently, because it's not enough. You're right. It's not enough to just say, I'm going to be consistent in my activities, because the reality is human nature is very inconsistent. Additionally, the world in which we live is very inconsistent. There are a lot of variables because we're dealing with a lot of other human beings and a very dynamic industry with lots of moving parts. And so the second that we think that we can just lock ourselves in a room and only do these activities at these specific times, like, it's a little bit of a pipe dream. Yes, that's the ideal, but the reality is things are going to get in the way, and you have to have some tools or some arrows in your quiver that allow you to work around those variables that keep you from being consistent. So excited to dive into those today. So let's get right to it. Point number 1 that I want to share with you is this, is that first and foremost, you have to have a vision. You have to have a vision that is bigger than just around the corner. Like, you have to be able to see and be working on something that is exciting enough to you, and that gets you fired up enough that you're willing to actually put forward more effort to be consistent in your activities than not. And what I see oftentimes is agents. In fact, I've gone deep with one of my coaching clients on this. His name is Daniel. Daniel, listen to this. Thank you for your added insight. But he said, one of the things that I find in myself, I'm quoting Daniel now, he said, one of the things I find in myself is I'm looking at the floor. In other words, I'm looking at, okay, how much do I need to stay afloat? How much do I need to keep my business in the black? How much do I need to keep my family in the black? And because we're aware of that, we start to head for that. Just like when you're driving down the car, my wife accuses me of this all the time. She says, watch the road. What are you looking at? Quit looking at your phone, right? Quit looking at that thing over there. Like, watch the road, right? A little embarrassing to say that in front of all of you. But the reality is this, is that we go where our eyes go. So if we start to veer off, like, we are going to follow. And so if our vision is only, what do I need to do to stay solvent? What do I need to do to not go broke? What do I need to do to be sure that I keep my real estate business afloat? That may be the problem. And the fact that what you are essentially saying is, like, all I want is to survive. Okay. Now we need to start asking different questions, better questions get better results. And so we start to ask the question of not like, how do I stay alive? But a better question could be like, what could I do? What could I accomplish this year? What's possible? What would cause me 1 year from now to be celebrating, to like seriously be doing this Tiger Woods fist pump of like, yes, yes, yes. Like, what would cause that? If you haven't done this yet, I encourage you to open up a journal and just start to write 1 year and 5 years from now. Just start with that. Like, what would cause you to celebrate? And take off all the limiting beliefs, take off all the stuff. Well, I don't know if I can do that. Like, just dream for a little bit. Okay. And then distill that down to something that you can really believe in, that you can really get your head around, and just watch what happens. And again, this is point one, which is have a very clear vision of what you're building. Have a very clear vision of not just what you're building, but what that means to you, what that means to your family, and how you feel when you get there. Okay. Once you start to internalize these things of, oh my goodness, it feels so good to be able to travel the world. It feels so good to be able to be on a beach and know that transactions are still closing in my company name and the checking account is still getting filled up. Like, how good would that feel? Right? It feels so good to have experience where I have rental properties and I've got mailbox checks coming in every single month. Like, how good would that feel? Like, it feel really good, right? Like, really, really, really good. Yes, of course it would. So get your arms around a clear vision, crystal clear in your mind. In fact, I would encourage you to work on this a little bit every single day. Part of your morning routine ought not just be to wake up, drink your coffee, slap your face a little bit, try and do some exercise to keep off the kilos, right? But what if we were to think a little bit bigger, right? Isn't that my job? Isn't that why you invite me into your life and into your working space right now? Is because I'm here to help you to think bigger. Yes, let's do it, right? Rather than just having your morning routine be about that, what if you dedicated just 5 minutes to review and stop and pause and reflect about those things that you are going to be celebrating a year from now, those things that you are going to be celebrating 5 years from now? Just like settle into that. Like, how's that going to feel? That feels pretty good, doesn't it? Okay, so that right there, number one, is to have a clear vision of where you are headed. Once you really start to get your head around that, things change. Your consistency will go up, I promise you, because you're no longer just working to stay alive. You're now working for something much bigger. And all of a sudden, the things that were once giant mountains become speed bumps. Think about it. If you're laying on the ground and a speed bump's in front of you and all you can see is just above it, that speed bump seems huge. But stand up a little bit, stop staring at the speed bump, and look down the road a little ways and be like, that's where I'm headed. That's where I'm going, right? Once you start to think that way, all of a sudden that speed bump takes on proper perspective. It's no longer completely blocking your path. It's like, oh, it's way down here. I'll just step over. It's no big deal. Okay. So again, part of the problem of us getting consistent results is we're inconsistent, right? That is the problem. Let's be honest. But one of the reasons why we're inconsistent is because we don't have a vision that's big enough to put all the little things that would derail us in proper perspective. Okay. That's point number one. Have a big vision. Okay. Point number two is to have a plan. If you have a vision and a plan, now all of a sudden that vision starts to have legs. Instead of it being like, oh, this is a warm, fuzzy vision board, I kind of like it. Ooh, I like to go dream and meditate. And once you have a plan, all of a sudden your subconscious has a framework by which it can go to work. Okay. If you don't have a plan, it's delusional. You're just simply having a fun time dreaming in some world that you'll never actually see. But if you can actually create a plan around this, actually build a plan to say, okay, let's say I do want to be on a beach and checks keep hitting my account and I'm not working. This is just an example. Now, you want to know why this is in my mind? Because a friend of mine, Jordan Adler, some of you know him as the author of the book Beach Money, just sent my family the most beautiful gift. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. So he's on my mind, right? He authored this book. And so he's in my mind a little bit. So thank you, Jordan, for that beautiful gift, by the way. But you, like, whatever the dream is, it might not be that. It might be the fact, which is probably more consistent with my dream, right? Which is I want to build a company that touches hundreds of millions of lives. See, my parents, let me tell you a quick story. My parents here were destined to be statistics, right? I'm saying this on my mom's birthday and I love her dearly. She would tell herself that she was not headed in a good direction. Came from a broken home, was expecting a child in high school, unmarried, right? Doesn't look like a recipe for a very successful life. She and my dad got married and they made an amazing marriage work for a long, long time. She built a 7-figure company. My dad has now built an 8-figure company. I don't say this to brag in any way. The reason why I share this with you is because of what they built from having come from literally nothing. Inspires me. It changed my trajectory. It caused me to think bigger. Every day it does. Part of my vision is to be able to build something beautiful that not just offers some opportunity for me and my family, but more importantly, creates a template that which other people look at that and say, if that guy can do it, I can do it too. And they go pursue their dreams because they saw what I went through. They saw that I created something great. And my children and other people can look to that as a source of inspiration to go pursue their dreams and make a big dent in the world for good. Okay. So whatever your dream is, whatever your passion is, okay, if you can put a plan behind it, all of a sudden, again, your subconscious has a framework by which it can go to work for you. Okay. Now, if you don't know how to do that, please DM me wherever you're listening to this at, whether it's podcast, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you're at right now, send me a DM, say plan, and I'll know what you're talking about. I'll either schedule a few minutes with you or I'll send you a link for you to have a plan that will connect both your vision and a business plan that will make it to where you can dream and actually have legs for that dream to stand on. Okay. So that's point 2 is a plan. Point 3. Okay. Now this is a fun one here. Point 3 is one that's going to take some work. Let's be honest, is that if all you have is a dream and a plan, then you still didn't accomplish anything more than get your hopes up. You actually have to work the plan. Now, I know that sounds oversimplified, so we then have to ask ourselves the question, well, why don't people who have a good plan, why don't they work the plan? Well, it's because they don't have the proper operating system. You see, they get up in the morning, they check their email inbox, they look at social media, and they say, what does everyone need from me? And they run around acting like a courier of information, and yet they want to get paid like a top producer when their daily activities look more like they work in the mailroom. Their daily activities look like they're more like a courier. Couriers don't get paid what top producers get paid. Let's be honest. Yet I have to ask everybody, are your activities more aligned with a courier than a CEO, or a CEO than a courier? Because you actually have to have your day reflect the plan. And oftentimes what that takes is an entirely new operating system. So the operating system that I used to work from is the exact one that I'm describing. I spent all day in my inbox. What does everybody need from me? And reading emails that didn't serve any purpose other than just to inform. Okay. When I started to realize no, I don't start in my inbox. No, I don't start on social media, right? I start with my plan, reviewing my vision, reviewing my plan, and being sure that the activities that are going to drive me to make that plan fulfilled are in first. Once I've got that in place, now, right? Once that's in place, now I say, how can I serve the world, right? Because if you don't put the big rocks in first, guess what? They don't make it in. They never make it in. Okay, so we have to put them in first. That doesn't mean if somebody very important in your life needs you that you ignore them, right? But that's the one-off as opposed to the standard. So that is the third one, is execute, but have a better operating system for execution. For those that work closely with me know that we've spent a lot of time curating something that's very special that gives you all 3 of these wrapped into one tool. If you're interested in talking about that, please reach out to me, let me know. And if you'll notice, for those of you that are watching live, right up in the top left-hand side of the screen, there's a QR code. This is a way for you to uncover how many referrals, how much money is untapped and sitting inside your sphere. With just a few tweaks to the systems that you have, you could be unlocking that. So please, if you have not yet gotten your referral score, it'll probably take you 60 seconds and we'll have an answer back to you within 24 hours as to what your score is and a couple tips on how to begin to close that gap and capture those monies that are inside your sphere, people that are just waiting for you to come serve them. So I want to thank everybody for tuning into today. Again, the 3 points are this. Number 1, have a vision. Number 2, have a plan. And number 3, execute, but execute from a better operating system than one that is going to be difficult to succeed within. Appreciate you all. My final request is this: go think bigger. Talk soon, my friends.